What's up, guys? Welcome back to the Keeping It Real podcast. I'm your host, James, joined by Calvin. And I was about to say and Reese, but he completely forgot we were doing this today. So at the top, Reese would like everyone to know he thought this was the worst movie he's ever seen. And it put him off watching films for a while. That's that's what he's just said. So glowing review from Reese. If you haven't guessed, we're here to talk about Morbius. One of the most anticipated films of the year, I'm sure, just out of morbid curiosity for me anyway. Quickly, Calvin, spoiler free, what did you think of Morbius?
Oh, sadly, I thought it was terrible. I really tried to go into it with an open mind, and the first few minutes I was like, okay, I kind of like sort of like what they're skipping over here and just going straight into it, and then it just went progressively downhill. And like the film basically starts off fine and then just snowballs into something like you said, you wanted something like, sort of so good it's but so bad it's good in a way. But
Yeah.
I don't know what your experience was, but I did not get that from this. I was so bored, and like, if you're making me bored and feeling like the film's overlong in an hour and 40 minutes, then you've done something wrong.
You watched this on your own, didn't you?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I watched it with my friend, and we've sort of, me and this particular friend Morgan, we've got this thing where we just love bad movies. So just so we can our last obsession was the Brahms the Boy 2. And now I think Morbius is going to overtake that, because I think for about an hour and a half we were just giggling to each other, because I thought this was equally as terrible as you did. But I did have a great time watching it. Obviously, we work at a cinema, so we get our movies for free. So if anyone, asked me, should I go see this, I would not suggest you pay money for it. But if somehow you can get your hands on a free ticket, then by all means, just to be aware of all the because it's trending on Twitter right now, and a lot of stories are coming out about Morbius and what Jared Leto was up to on the set, the absolute freak of a man he is.
I've seen so many memes about it, and it's so funny. But then I've seen other people come out and be like, let's not bully this movie. I was like, how do you bully a movie?
Oh, is that, yeah, Grace Randolph from Beyond the Trailer came out. Don't stop bullying Morbius. It's not Britney Spears in the mid 2000s. It's just a bad movie.
Leave Morbius alone.
Leave Morbius alone. Yeah. Anyway, so I mean, if anyone was actually interested in a spoiler-free review, we both thought it was abysmal. It is one of the worst superhero films I've ever seen. Like, maybe I'd even compare it to maybe the Josh Trank Fantastic Four movie from 2015, but at least there was sort of a hint of a different vision and a take with those characters that Morbius is just completely devoid of. So yeah, we need to talk about this movie more. So let's just get to spoilers. Yeah, you said it. We do skip. It seems like we're going to skip some of that boring origin stuff at the beginning, where we're just going right into the cave with the bats. Jared Leto's letting a bat eat his hand. I'm pretty sure there would have been another way to trap some bats, but drama and all that. But then unfortunately we do go back 25 years earlier. We see Michael when he was a child with his best friend Matt Smith, who we didn't need any of this. We talked about this earlier today. All of that could have been set up in a couple of lines of dialogue. They both have this same disease. They've known each other for a long time. That is all we need to know.
Yeah, they've wasted, like I said, every time sort of a filmmaker or writer in this case for the screenplay does something like that, it just feels unnecessary, and it just makes me feel like the rest of the film is just going to be poorly written.
It was very lazy,
unnecessary. Yeah. Like you said, all you need is a few lines of dialogue when the characters are older, and then I'm assuming most people are just going to get, okay, they're friends for a long time, they both have similar diseases, not out of left field to think that they grew up together in like a hospital of some description. Like I just don't understand. And you know, child actors in that weren't very good, but it's hard to get good child actors anyway. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe our first laugh of the movie was when his letter gets blown out the window.
Yeah.
And oh no, my letter.
It's like Pennywise is going to come and get him.
Really? Yeah. We call letters she, Georgie. So we go back into the present. Michael Morbius is desperate for a cure. He's moved towards more experimental science. He's experimenting with vampire bats. And of course, that can only go wrong. He, of course, does become a vampire, which, you know, anyone could have told you that. Don't go messing around with bats. Probably wouldn't fuse that with a human. And he's endowed with some vague, smoky abilities.
He seemed like
a rock hard body and a thirst for human blood.
He seemed so OP, and then in the last like climactic battle, he just gets pummeled.
Honestly, I'm really struggling to remember. I think I'd really checked out by the finale.
Oh yeah, the finale was rubbish. It was literally over in about 2 minutes, and it was not in any way
just
a
too
satisfying conclusion. It wasn't even a spectacle. It wasn't even an impressive spectacle. It was just, oh, we've got to wrap this up. This will do.
I thought the visuals of sort of like the sound waves, and you know, like that's how he flies and navigates. He is visualizing these sound waves and he's sort of riding them, which I thought that was an okay idea, and visually it wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen. Like the actual cinematography was dreadful.
It was just so dark, and I honestly think the main issue, I know the directors come out and says it's not their cut, but every director comes out and says that now, like, because
I'd say that too.
And like I think the biggest issue with the film is Jared Leto. Like, this could have been Matt Smith's character was way more interesting, and he sort of felt like he knew what he was in, and he was handing it up. You know, he's playing a camp. Like vampires are just always, you go back to where they come from, the camp. You know, they can be fun, and like even though and monsters at the same time. Like you can go quite crazy with the stuff you can do with them. And I think just Jared Leto's wanting to method act and show how tortured this guy is and how much
ridiculous for a film like this
his illness would be. Yeah, in a film about Morbius, the living vampire.
Yeah,
it just doesn't work. And Jared Leto doesn't do anything in the film. Like he doesn't act. He literally, like, apart from like walking around some crutches for a bit and being skinny, then being buff. Like to me, that like he does nothing else with his face. He's just samey. But it's so weird to think that his most dialed down role is playing a vampire
in a Marvel movie.
Which should be like played up.
Yeah.
And part of me was like, I would have rather seen Matt Smith just play Morbius, even if he looked, because I think with comic book casting, especially, people get too bogged down on whether or not you see fan casting all the time, and it's usually, oh, this actor just looks a lot like this character, so that's why we want them, even though they might not have the acting chops to sort of pull it off. But Matt Smith's performance in this, I was like, yeah, this is like he's stolen the film. I guess he's a villain, so we can get away with being a bit more crazy and zany. But I just thought, like, he actually had charisma. He was menacing, and I feel like Jared Leto was just trying to be method, and then it was also coupled with the studio not wanting, especially with the a good example is the introduction of the artificial blood, which was seemed like an interesting idea, and it was why he possibly could have won a Nobel Prize and all this. But they don't develop it, so it just shows that the studio just wanted it in there because it's more palatable to have your hero or protagonist of the story not actually drinking human blood, because he would be more likable in a way. I don't know, but like he still murders people, but they kind of try and get away with it by, oh, these guys are mercenaries.
The woman probably deserved to die.
Yeah, the woman Matt Smith killed had 2 kids, and they make such a like a point of it. And I'm sure I'm just sat like thinking, I'm sure audiences can understand like if you're trying to present like a morally grey character. Like we've had characters like Deadpool as an example, who's like this, or even most recently like someone like Peacemaker,
Yeah.
who still be worthy of heroics in a way, but then also be as morally grey. Like I feel like
It's
if you're going to have a character like Morbius who literally needs blood, you sort of have to make that risk. You have to take that risk of having it a bit darker and have a character who's morally grey, or you go completely the other way and just go completely batshit crazy, just like zany, like B movie stuff.
Yeah, well, I'm confused on where they want to actually take this character because very much in the trailers and stuff, I was like, well, yeah, he's going to be that. They're probably going to make him more of an anti-hero, but then they seems like they're setting up the Sinister Six, which is, iconically a team of villains. So
Mm,
I'm confused on what they want us to think about this character and where he's going and what the trajectory of this is. And even I don't even think Sony know, because
yeah,
I mean we'll talk in a short while about the post credits and where we think that is going, but it's all very confusing. And also we speak about the artificial blood and that, there is that moral conundrum of he needs blood to survive and maintain his abilities, but he
yeah, and
can't go
that's
out murdering
interesting.
people. But he's also a doctor, and we've seen he has easy access to human blood on a daily basis. So I don't think that it's confusing to have that moral dilemma when there was such an easy fix for it.
Yeah, but surely I don't know much about Morbius as a character in terms of comics, but surely he's the Doctor. Is his origin the same? I don't know.
Yeah, pretty much similar enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah,
And also when Matt Smith takes this cure after he sees what it's done for Jared Leto. So I'm just going to keep calling him Jared Leto because he's not actually playing a character in this. So he sees what it's done and he's like, I need this too. I'm also going to die from this disease. He sneaks out a vial, takes it himself, and then all suddenly just becomes a villain. And there's no sort of development to that stage. I know he gets in an argument with uh, Morbius about, like, I need this too. Stop being selfish. Don't keep it for yourself. But I feel like there should have been more of a discussion of like, no, like we've both got this now. How are we going to navigate this and keep these abilities without becoming
yeah,
that monster? And there
and
was
then
never that moment. It was just, oh well,
yeah,
he's had it, and now he's the bad guy because this is a superhero movie and we need a
yeah.
bad guy.
It would have been more interesting if they had those conversations and tried to work together, and then they actually found out their goals are not aligned,
Mm,
and then
exactly.
explode it through that line. But you didn't have. They
It's
obviously
so
didn't have.
quick.
But then they could have cut out 5 or 6 other things in the film to make room
Mm,
for that relationship, because the heart of the story was trying to be their relationship. That's why they thought they had to put in this flashback to
yeah.
understand their friendship. And I felt like if they explored that more and kept that the central core, it would have been so much more interesting. But they were, I don't even know what they were interested in. It just seemed like the
No,
film was
because
going nowhere
you've got this
constantly.
relationship. You've got this, yeah. You've
Nothing
got
was
this
happening.
friendship and rivalry with Matt Smith. You've got Jared Leto being hunted down by Tyrese Gibson and his partner,
Yeah, which
and
is
then you've
full
also
conflict.
got this relationship with his other doctor Martine, and there is just like what is the focus here? It's so slapdash with its plotting and its characters, and
Yeah, it's just full of archetypes, just
yeah,
constantly just to have, oh, we need all these. And that's why it feels just like it didn't even try to do anything new. It just feels like you're by how you, if someone asked you to describe a superhero origin story in 50 words, that's what you'd get.
it's cut down to its basics, and I think there are scenes in this and even consecutive scenes, there are such leaps in story and character where I'm like, there must have been stuff in between here for this to make sense, even in the script. But I think it is another case of Sony going through and being like, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this. All we need is set up for another movie coming down the road. But you're not going to get those movies if you don't put the effort into making this one successful.
Yeah,
because
they're probably too focused on the sort of, seems like they were too focused on the big picture rather than what was right in front of them.
They did this last time they tried to establish a Sinister Six and, greater Spider-Man universe. They rushed it and they were like, oh, right, we need to just catch up with the MCU. And I'd argue that the last time they did it, which was in the Amazing Spider-Man series, was a lot more creative than what they're doing now. So I'm like, what are you learning? You'd think that, watching the MCU and even being involved in the MCU with their Spider-Man movies over the past few years, they'd have learned and took some lessons from Kevin Feige and been like, right, we need to take it slow. This isn't something you can rush. But again, we'll talk about the post-credit scenes now, because I think these are the worst I've ever seen. So the first scene is, I should preface this with, all the footage of Michael Keaton and any references to Spider-Man have been completely omitted from the film. So those scenes and little Easter eggs that we saw in the trailers are completely gone. They're not a part of this story whatsoever. So our first post-credit scene, we open up with that big dimensional rift over New York City that we saw at the end of No Way Home. And inexplicably, even though it's sort of defying the rules established in that film, Michael Keaton is hopped over to the Venom universe, the Venom and Morbius universe now, from the MCU, even though that wasn't a part of those rules. And he's in a jail cell in similar garb to what he was wearing at the end of Homecoming. And all he says, he takes a look at himself in the mirror, which I don't think they have mirrors in prison cells, and says, I hope the food's better in this joint. Which, that's not the character that we remember from his Spider-Man movie. His entire motivation was his daughter and his wife, and he was being a criminal. So, because he thought that was better for them, he could get this money and give them the life that they deserved. But in this, he just doesn't care anymore. Apparently, those years in prison have really turned him into a cold bastard, and he no longer cares about them. They're out the picture. He only cares about what's going in his tummy. Because there's no version of Adrian Toomes in this universe, he's just appeared out of nowhere. Oh yeah, so is Michael Keaton the only person who's suddenly just appeared in this universe?
Yeah, it
Is
kind of
there
makes.
No one else?
I don't know how it works. I don't know what they were trying to do or what they're trying to set up. But like,
I think they're just hoping you
does
don't
it work?
realize.
Did he get transported there because he knew who Peter was?
But that's not the rules that got established at the end. He was sending back. Back people who had come through. Michael Keaton was already in the MCU.
But so surely they'd have no sense. Surely Kevin Feige and whoever else at Marvel has to sort of look at this because it's in conjunction with them. Or they do
because Sony, Marvel just help out basically on those Spider-Man movies. So if anything to do with this, purely Sony universe, they've got full control over. They don't need any, collaboration or whatever. So that, yeah, Michael Keaton is kicked out of jail because he doesn't exist basically in this universe.
What?
Yeah. Even though
I should probably clarify that the film was so bad that I just walked out at the end.
You didn't see the post-credit.
But I've read what the credits scenes are. I was just like, I'm not sitting and waiting for this.
I'm glad I did because they're ridiculous. The second post-credit scene, it starts off, I thought it was a fucking car commercial. Jared Leto was driving out into the desert. He's got a destination sorted, which we don't know where he's going. Gets out of his car, and in swoops the Vulture in his MCU costume. The helmet's a bit different, but it's pretty much the exact same. That wasn't transported over with him. That in Homecoming, it's very much established that is pieced together from alien tech and Lost Avengers tech from all the battles over the years. So I don't know how he's got this suit. It doesn't make any sense.
Could there be he's found another tinkerer in that universe? Probably.
The Avengers don't exist in this universe, or they've not had these big battles. The only thing we're aware of in this universe so far,
it could be different tech, or is it exactly the same?
It looks the exact same. So he comes in. He's like, "Oh, I've been reading up on you, Dr. Michael Morbius." I'll say again, this doesn't even sound like Michael Keaton, and he doesn't take the helmet off, so it might not have been.
Oh yeah, it probably isn't.
No, either that or he recorded his dialogue over the phone. So he's like, yeah, I've been reading up on you. I'm not really sure how I got here. I think it's something to do with Spider-Man. To which, if I was Morbius, I'd reply, what the fuck is a Spider-Man? Because there's no inclination in Morbius, Venom, or Venom 2 that Spider-Man exists in this universe.
Yeah.
So very confusing. And he's like, we should get a team of guys and maybe do some good.
Oh, do some good.
He says do some good, which what? What are you
trying
talking about?
Are they trying to set up like a anti-hero team?
Well, they're setting up the Sinister Six. That's what it's eventually going to be. I think the next film we've got coming out is Kraven the Hunter, which, I mean, they've got a good director behind it, but I can't imagine it being. I think it's J.C. Chandor who did like A Most Violent Year with Oscar Isaac and Jessica Chastain. He's a good director, but I'm not expecting anything from it. So yeah, they're really just bullet training towards another Sinister Six setup. We're not aware of which Spider-Man they're going to fight. If they are going to fight Spider-Man,
do you think that's what Sony want is their end game plan? They want to have the Sinister Six is like there because everyone knows, most comic book fans or just casual fans know about the Sinister Six in some way.
Yeah, and I think even only just for the past couple of years of like articles coming out, people are aware of who these are now.
Yeah, these can be our Avengers type thing, and we can try and center our universe around them.
Yeah, which I think is just incredibly lazy. Because without a Spider-Man, what are you going to do with the Sinister Six? You know what I mean? Make a fight an even worse villain. Boring. Oh, anyway, so yeah, those are the post-credit scenes. They are two of the worst I've ever seen in any superhero movie, and they're both in the same film. So fucking well done, Sony. I thought at least I was like, at least we're getting Michael Keaton in the end credits, and then it completely ruined his character and made absolutely no sense to what we've learned before.
Yeah, so when watching the film, I completely forgot that he was supposed to be in it, and he was like, obviously he's in the trailer, and I forgot all the Spider-Man references. Like, and it was only the end. I was like, where was Michael Keaton? And then I probably guessed he was in the end credit scene, but as soon as it came up directed by, I was already out the
door. I'll make this point. I don't think Daniel Espinosa is to blame here. I think there might, and he says this isn't my cut, and I genuinely believe him because this seems like it's been tampered with, and I can tell there's such leaps between scenes that Sony have just gone in and they've cut out everything. It's strange that they didn't cut out all the flashback bullshit that we didn't need. But we could have actually had some other character development.
I don't think he would have had a good film anyway. I thought like it could be a bit better, but then how long would it be? And then, obviously I do believe it did feel like Sony were getting really, really involved. But I do feel like he might have just been making a bad film anyway. It might not be as bad as it is, but I still don't think
it definitely would have been better than this for sure.
Because Life, I didn't watch in the cinema, right? I just watched it. I just sort of looked at it one day and thought, yeah, I'll watch this. This will probably be crap. And then I was actually pleasantly surprised by it.
I thought it was pretty good, tense, and enjoyable little sci-fi thriller. Which, so when I learned he was onto this, I was like, okay, they've got someone who, he's proven he can handle an okay story. Remember when Life came out as well, and there were all the rumors that it was a Venom prequel.
No,
and that was how the symbiote came to Earth. That would have been cool.
Oh, right, you're right.
Yeah.
What with my name?
Yeah, it came out around the time as well, like enough time before Venom was coming out that it actually would have made sense, and I believe it was Sony as well. Oh yeah, it would have been. Otherwise, the rumor wouldn't have gone around. Do you have anything else to say on Morbius? Because I don't think I could talk about this movie anymore.
I probably do, but it's sort of just draining me.
Yeah, no, I don't. Well, yeah. Yeah, there are also a couple of other weird moments. They're doing setups for I think a Morbius sequel in itself with Martine turning into a vampire at the end.
She turns into a vampire at the end of this one.
Yeah. She because they have their last
Oh,
kiss
I'm
and she
sorry. I thought
bites
you
his
meant in
lip.
the next film. That would be the
Oh
ending
no,
of
no,
the next
no.
film.
Yeah, so they're doing the sequel setup, but I think this is gonna. It did okay at the box office this weekend, but I don't think it's gonna have a big drop off.
Yeah.
With everything coming out, this is not gonna make the money it needs to, considering they had to do maybe 2 years of marketing for this film and the amount of pushbacks. So I hopefully it doesn't make its money back because I don't want a second one. And I don't want whatever fucking Sinister Six movie they are setting up. All that said, what do you rate this out of 5?
I'm gonna give it a 1.5
Oh,
out of 5.
1.5. I'll also
Yeah,
go with
but
1.5.
mainly because of Matt Smith, who definitely steals the show. And I like Jared Harris, for whatever reason.
Jared Harris, yeah, if he was in it more. I mean, there were scenes in the trailer that he was in that definitely got cut out as well. Imagine this as well. Tyrese Gibson, bless him, the absolute moron he is. He's come out and said, because they hint that he's got this like arm implant.
Yeah.
And he said that his character is basically superhero himself, and his arm can do all this special magical shit. Which in the movie, there's
He's
nothing
got his hand in his
hinting at
pocket.
that. He's always got his hand. He's always got a jacket on, and he's always got his hand in his pocket.
It's the part where he catches Morbius on the roof. At the first, before I realized it was Morbius, it's like, sound waves that he could possibly fly on.
Yeah.
I thought it was like Tyrese Gibson doing something,
Oh no.
like
Oh
pulling
look,
him back.
maybe in the original cut of this film he was doing something, and they were like, no, take it out. We don't need more. Oh yeah. Fuck this movie. So that's a 1.5 from each of us. And that is it for our review of Morbius. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you don't go and see this movie because it just doesn't need the attention. I think this week of attention on Morbius is all it deserves. If you're listening on YouTube, then let us know down below in the comments what you thought of the film. Also, like and subscribe. If you're listening on another streaming platform, then rate, like, follow us, all that good stuff. It really helps us out. Until next time, keep it real.